So,
Yeah.
yeah. So what we'll do, Andrew, we'll just ask like questions about how did you get started with your Nature of Reality radio, about what your ambitions are, the guests that you've had on, what kind of topics you enjoy discussing, and what kind of experiences you've had.
Well, Nature of Reality Radio, I began doing that in November of 2013. The uh, conference at Sarasota, Florida in October 2013 that was headed by Greg Prescott of in5d.com was where I officially decided once and for all that I was going to do a radio show. Greg Prescott of in5d, he had been doing a radio show for a little while, in5d Radio. Shortly after the Mayan calendar 2012 end date, he did his own radio show, and I was one of the most frequent callers on his show, and I always gave out great information, so much so to the point where he kept hassling me about how I should have my own show. And it was when I went to
Okay.
his conference on the Siesta Key Beach with the 99.9% quartz crystal sand that I officially decided that I was definitely going to want to do a radio show. And I have had a whole slew of guests on this show since the old days when I used to be on Blog Talk Radio. And then I moved to Capricorn Radio, which was a short-lived experience that, well, Edward James Swagger, megalith expert of sorts who ran Capricorn Radio, invited me to come on Capricorn Radio, no fee. I mean, I wouldn't have to pay a $400 fee a year like I had for Blog Talk. It seemed like everything was perfect to join that. And he seemed
Hmm.
like he was very interested in having me as a radio guest, but unfortunately, after a few shows, he disappeared. Capricorn Radio went defunct, and he vanished off the face of the earth. And when he came back, he wasn't talking to me or anybody else. And as a result, I have kind of been a stray radio host in distress ever since, doing Skype to Skype pre-records. Although in more recent times, I have tried to change around things a bit by doing some live shows in which I was doing them live on YouTube and was trying to get people to subscribe to Throne, this site called Throne, where you can, for subscription, $10 subscription, participate in live chat. Of course, nobody was going to do that because everybody could chat for free on YouTube, so there was no incentive to pay to join that.
Yeah.
And then I have since decided, okay, I'm going to start doing my shows Skype to Skype as I do now, and I'm going to upload them to YouTube, but I'm going to have them listed as unlisted for 2 to 3 weeks and put them on Patreon so that people will have to pay me to listen to it right away and then wait 2 to 3 weeks to listen to it. But unfortunately, in this time of great economic challenge, it seems like nobody is interested to pay me to listen to the shows and is willing to actually wait the 2 to 3 weeks until I upload it free for everybody. I really do not want to make my show pay-per-view, even 50% pay-per-view. That would really suck. But it's coming to a point where I don't know what to make in this crazy world that we're living in right now, where it looked like everything was going great with the Alex Collier having said on some recent interview on the Goldfish Report, like in late 2019, I see great things for humanity because the Draco-reptilian overlords have left the Earth. And well, he spoke too soon because the next thing we know, this virus that shall not be named pandemic comes along and screws up everything and kind of puts a postponement on the awakening of humanity that he was seeing. And well, I've been doing the same thing I've always done during that pandemic. I was doing shows and still working as a full-time employee in my mother's ophthalmology office. Dear sweet mama means more to me than anyone or anything, and I actually want to become the administrator of that business someday in the future to carry on her legacy. She's planning to retire in this upcoming August. She's in her mid-60s now, and want to carry on her legacy by being the administrator. But even if I won the lottery, I'd still want to work for her because she means so much to me. That's how much I love her. And even if I were making enough on the show, I'd want to keep working for her. But this show, I've had so many guests on. In the old days on Blog Talk Radio, I was very picky about not having the same guest on twice, because I wanted to make my show as fair and impartial and informative as possible, and I figured not having the same guest on twice would be the best way to do that. I've kind of moved on past that, realized it was kind of dick to tell people at the end of the show, I love you so much, but I'm not going to have you on again because I want to have a different guest on every week. I've moved past that. I realized some guests are definitely worthy of coming on my show a second time, and ever since moving off Blog Talk, I've had a few guests on. Michael Lee Hill, I believe, was the one guest that I had on twice when I didn't even know that I had him on once before. That was a funny thing to remember, but there were lots of shows to remember, a lot of them that I don't remember. I've been basically doing it twice a week since 2017, and trying to do it on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday basis. Seems like the universe wants me to catch a break, though, in these times, so I can't seem to find ways to do it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but I do the best I can to put myself out there, ask hard questions, and let me make it clear that there is nobody in this world who has a more difficult time understanding the nature of reality than I, and that, of course, is the reason why I am the host of Nature of Reality Radio. Cool. So that's my show in a nutshell, and I know a lot of info because I do a lot of research, but then again, I can be very interesting, and I can also be very boring. It all depends on the attention span and the insights and interests of the listener, and unfortunately, doing 2-hour shows all the time has made my audience not grow as big as it could be. Only having 6,500 subscribers on YouTube doesn't look all that great, but so sue me. That's the price I pay for trying to do 2-hour shows to get out a lot of info. But I have been shadow banned a few
grows,
times, though. Yeah, it should grow.
We're joined by Andrew. We're joined by another Andrew. So there's Andrew Chaplin now come into the room, also from the UK. And Andrew is my co-host on the Paranormal Peeps show. I don't know if you can actually see us there, Andy Fisher in the US. Can you see our images at all or not?
Yes, I can.
Cool. Okay, yes, well, Andy is, of course, his name below there, so he's...
Hi, Andy. Do you prefer Andrew or Andy? I prefer Andy. For me, anyway.
Actually, everybody in America who's named Andrew prefers Drew. Andy seems kind of gay nowadays, so for whatever the reason. So, Andrew is definitely not a gay name or anything. It means manly, in if you translate it to Greek. So,
it does indeed. Yes. Yeah.
And
well, I prefer Andy. You know, maybe I'm like bang on trend with the whole rainbow thing, or maybe not. But Andy is what I go by.
Okay, so Paul, I see you've started the recording.
I've recorded now, yeah. So
cool. Okay, so we've had a little warm up.
Yeah, we can do a proper interview. Start up and introduce it if you like. Do you want to introduce it?
Yeah. Are Yulia and an Anya as well in here?
No, just me.
That's just the name of his Skype.
Okay, right.
Registration.
Yeah, that's my wife and daughter.
Yeah. They can join us, I'm sure.
Yeah, everyone join us.
Very comfortable there, Neil.
It's all right. I'm actually not in the normal room that I'm normally at. I'm normally upstairs, but I thought I'll just, because it's not normally, okay, this is video, we can see ourselves. Yeah. It's actually going out as an audio thing. So what I did do, I just brought down a cushion just to help with the acoustics, and I've got the mic settled on there, so it just blocks out a lot of reverb and things like that.
I'm going to switch my camera off because I get Skype lag times and problems with my camera on.
That's fine. Yeah, turn it off there, mate. Yeah, that's fine.
I never had a camera.
Okey-dokey,
I've always been told I had a great radio voice, so I try to keep the radio integrity of it by never showing my face. Like
an air of mystery.
Great.
Exactly.
They say.
Although there are ways to figure out what I look like.
This show Unite Planet. Welcome to Unite Planet. Yeah? We'll say that.
Yeah. Or a Paranormal Peeps show. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then I'll count us down then. Here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Hello, welcome to a joint production between Unite Planet and the Paranormal Peeps show. So it's hello from me, Neil Gillis Ward, And my co-host from the Paranormal Peep Show, Andy Chaplin, is here. Hi, Andy.
Hi Neil, how you doing?
We're fine. I'm fine. How are you?
It's warming up. I'm quite happy that winter is kind of going back into its slumber and spring is springing into its step. I have a prediction of what I think might be coming up.
What, this year?
Yeah, it's not really a psychic one. It's kind of like what kind of happened last year. Are we allowed to mention the dreaded C word? The
Well, you
COVID?
can do.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think that as it's warming up and it's getting sunnier, people are going to be outside more. They're going to be getting more sunlight. They're going to be getting more vitamin D. And as Boston University found out, 80% of people who are hospitalized with COVID are lacking vitamin D. So people are going to get more vitamin D. COVID cases are going to go down, and they're going to go, yippee, aren't the vaccines successful?
Of course, yeah. That's
That's
a pretty good a pretty good scientific analysis prediction. Okay, and we're also joined by Paul Northridge of Unite Planet, minus his co-host Johnny, who isn't here tonight. But how are you, Paul?
I'm not too bad, Neil. How's yourself?
Fine, thank you. Fine, thank you. Now, we're also joined as well by a gentleman from Philadelphia in the United States who also runs his own show, The Nature of Reality, and that is Mr. Andrew Fisher. Andrew, are you there?
Yes, I am. Putting myself off mute there.
How are you, sir?
Great. Could be better, could be worse. As I told you before, that's my usual catchphrase. Could be better, could be worse when everybody asks me how I'm doing.
What's the COVID situation stateside? Because we're not quite sure this end.
Frankly, I don't know what to believe, considering that, well, I mean, you're David Icke from the UK. He's kind of confused the whole issue, considering that when it first started, he was saying, look how this virus started from near some bioterror labs in the Wuhan area. What a interesting coincidence. But then he did a complete 180 and said there is no virus. They're just testing for a genetic material exosome that resembles the virus and are fudging the data. But from a personal standpoint, I really don't know if I can agree with that there is no virus idea, considering that the administrator at my job claims that she had it, and on Christmas Eve, my beloved maternal grandfather passed away at the ripe old age of 91 after having gotten the virus allegedly and spending some time in the hospital, and eventually when he got back to the retirement home, but he wasn't able to keep breathing. The respiratory arrest ultimately was what killed him, and so I am kind of led to believe that there's definitely got to be some sort of a airborne virus out there. There's a lot of miscommunication about what's going on, though, and misleading about what's really happening. I mean, I've even heard stories about a woman who got hit by a truck, and then her listed as cause of death was the virus, which makes no sense, but that's kind of manipulation you get, and it looks like what's going on here is that the system of domination and control is trying to use this virus to control humanity as best it possibly can, because they are losing control more and more every single day, and this is like maybe their last hurrah of sorts before they before they get the boot and humanity can finally have some nice awakening for a change. That's an optimistic thought.
I think we could probably say that the New World Order isn't, somewhere over the horizon. It's pretty much here. It's a case of now, what do we do about it?
Crikey. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's start off with Andrew's show that he has. It's called The Nature of Reality. Now, that's a kind of a very interesting
Nature
title.
of Reality Radio. You want to include the word radio there.
Nature of Reality Radio. That's more correct. Okay. So, how did you come up with that amazing title, Andrew?
Well, first of all, nobody has a more difficult time understanding the nature of reality than I. Just like Albert Einstein once said, don't worry about your difficulties in mathematics. I can assure you that mine are still greater. I like to do an adaptation of that quote saying, "Don't worry about your difficulties understanding the nature of reality. I can assure you that mine are still greater," and that's the reason I am the host of a show called Nature of Reality Radio, which as I explained during the pre-show conversation, I got interested in doing when Greg Prescott of In5D, he was doing a radio show, In5D Radio on Blog Talk. I was calling in frequently and giving great info. He said I should have my own show, and it was when I went to Greg's conference in Sarasota, Florida in October 2013. It was there that I decided once and for all, okay, I'm going to take Greg's advice and do a radio show, and I started the show in November 2013. I had been doing it on a weekly basis, and since 2017 on a bi-weekly basis, and I'm trying to do it on a tri-weekly basis now on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday basis. It's getting kind of hard though, and unfortunately, doing 2-hour shows all the time has made it hard to generate a big audience because humans by nature have lousy attention spans. Make a big stink on that every single show to try to give the human race a nice kick in the pants, because I do a lot of research and hard work to ask hard questions to my guests on my show, and I've had many guests, and I'm going to have many more. And even though I do have the same guest on more than once now, I try to get different guests on as much as possible for the variety aspect of it, from a whole slew of different topics. And well, there's a lot more to learn and a lot more to see, and I am always doing my research to keep up to date with everything, and always asking my angels and guides to guide me and protect me on the show whenever I do it.
So, Andrew, have you had any UFO or ghost experiences yourself?
Well, I've seen UFOs at conferences and such, like James Gilliland's ECETI Ranch. Of course, Billy Meyer would like to have a word about what those UFOs really are, but that's a whole new can of worms. And as far as experiences go, there was a time when I had an encounter with, it was in May of 2015, when I asked Akashic Records reader Andrew Bartz when I had a session with him, what was that, being that I had a meeting with, and he said it was my future self, which was coming back in time to wake me up and give me a kick in the pants to stop screwing around with my life with some of the things that I was doing that I'm not really going to get into now, but kind of straightened it out at that point after May of 2015, and that was a freaky experience. Among other things, I had visions of people sitting on some sort of a space pod flying through space. It was like something out of a Jetsons cartoon, and there were like sounds around my house and working out perfect synchronistic fashion with the thoughts I was having. So yeah, it was my future self giving me a kick in the pants and whatnot. That seems to be the one paranormal experience that I've really had. I haven't had the luck or the luxury, whatever word I want to use to describe having experiences like so many other people have. I can only guess as to why that's the case, but I guess it just wasn't in my soul contract to be abducted yet. But I'd like it to happen someday. I'm sure.
Well, unless you've got protection from the good guys, of course, that's the other thing.
Right.
In terms of the ETs, because there's quite a lot of contactees who don't get much of the negative because they've got contacts with the positive. Have you found that, Andrew?
Yes, there's definitely a lot of a lot of people have different experiences regarding positive and negative factions of the ET races out there, and well, a lot of misinformation has been spread regarding what the ET's agendas are. I mean, everybody who follows David Icke would think reptilians are evil, but Andrew Bartz, the Akashic Records reader I mentioned, has said that there's 18 species of reptilian alien affecting our reality on Earth, and only one is malevolent. So there's a lot going on there that we don't know, and when you realize these ETs, it makes more sense to think of them as coming from different dimensions or densities, and not from different planets. Their vibrational frequency is where it makes sense to think of where they come from or claim where they come from, and that means, of course, we can't perceive them because they're outside of our frequency band. But of course, just because you can't see something doesn't mean that it's imaginary. There's a lot of people in this world who won't believe it unless they see it, which is a shame. But it's our job to wake those people up, of course.
And what's the guests you've had on your show? You had some interesting people by the looks of things.
Oh, yes, a whole slew of guests. The most popular interview I've ever done was the one with John Lear, where we talked about 9/11,
Oh, yeah.
UFOs, and ETs, and a whole slew of things. There, that was a pretty entertaining interview. I kind of dragged it along a little bit, though, but then again, there were some funny moments. Another prominent interview I did that, like, came out of left field was this cave art interview that the next morning after I uploaded it, I saw that the video had 50,000 views, and then, well, they kind of sabotaged that, bringing the view count down to 27,000 views for a little bit, and then it moved back up. But interesting how people really seem to like cave art, and that interview came really really out of the blue there regarding popularity. And of course, another guest that that I want to point out that I had on, Winston Shrout. Poor guy, spending 10 years in jail now for allegedly committing fraud, giving people sovereign citizen advice that really is, I mean, it makes sense from a metaphysical standpoint, but in the end, he's still making the law up, and if he's making the law up, then he's committing fraud, and well, one could make the argument maybe he kind of got what he deserved. There were a lot of people who did go to jail following his advice, and I mean, I did a double face palm when I heard in his trial, Winston Shrout's trial, that the defense was going to make the move that Winston Shrout is not mentally competent to stand trial. I mean, that was a slap in the face to me and almost everyone else who's ever tried to work with Winston. But the interview that I did with him on commerce and admiralty law, it was very informative nonetheless, even though he claims that he has admitted that he's made the law up. So those are some prominent interviews. There was another Stuart Swerdlow interview that I did that a lot of people have seen. That seems to be one of the more popular interviews I did. Well, in the comment section of that interview, seems like everybody's saying the host needs to shut the F up and let Stuart Swerdlow talk. Well, I just had to get a lot of information in that interview, and Stuart didn't mind. But I mean, I cover everything: UFOs, metaphysics, spirituality, astrology, the law, corruption, conspiracy theories, and everything else that's not in the mainstream science and textbooks. I try to find a way to cover it on my show, and I do have a Facebook group and also a page on Blogger where I archive all the interviews. And I really don't want to make my show pay-per-view to have to force people to pay me to have to listen to it, but in this time of great challenge where making money is kind of hard, I may have to do that in the near future. I hope not, but nobody's paying me on Patreon to listen to my shows in advance before I make it free to everybody on YouTube. So I can't blame people. I mean, they're stripped with other things to pay for, so they can't necessarily pay me to listen to my shows. I give them credit for being patient, but it still hurts that they're not paying me. So, well, that's
Okay.
in a nutshell.
Well, I was just looking also here. Now, I've heard of this guy and seen little bits of reference to him. And it looks like you've had him on your show, Andrew Basiago. Now, he's the guy that claimed...
Yes.
Was it time travel or giant time jump to Mars or something
At
like
Mars,
that?
yes.
I've
He
spoke
claimed
loads
he
of
was on
dinosaurs
Mars.
and things like that.
Oh,
And
everyone's speaking at once.
Pegasus. Sorry.
Pegasus. And he went there as a child, didn't he?
Yes, but to Mars, I don't know if he went there as a child. As a child, it was when he claims he went back in time, and he claims that there is a picture of him at Abraham Lincoln's, I think it's the Gettysburg Address, and he's in that picture. He does look kind of out of place there in that picture. I'll have to check out the interview that I did with him to understand the whole science behind time travel and how it works. There's a lot of people who seem to think he's under mind control, and he's just babbling out what he's been led to believe that he's doing, but he doesn't come across to me as being under mind control, and he's not the only one in that's acknowledged that there's definitely some sort of a time travel thing going on in the behind the scenes, behind the curtain.
I did see him on a YouTube thing. I think it was with Kerry Cassidy, I think it was, and her co-host Bill, forget his surname. That's where I first saw it, and then I later saw references to him saying something about Obama. President Obama's was one of his fellow
Yes, he
Mars
knew.
travelers or something.
Yes, he knew Obama as Barry Soetoro. That was the name that he went by, and he claims that Barry Soetoro was a very intelligent person, and he, well, was one of several people that were going to be future presidents that were involved in the time travel program. He's another thing that he's also said that's really got a lot of eyebrows raised was that he was shown slides of planes hitting the World Trade Center in 1971, which is 30 years before 9/11 happened, and kind of makes you wonder if the government decided to use that to their advantage. If they knew that that was going to happen in the future, they can manipulate the timeline to their advantage. So, of course, the 9/11 Truth Movement, most people are not going to want to talk about time travel because they fear it's going to discredit the movement. So, he is unfortunately
the obvious question is, I think the obvious question is, did he reference it at all before it actually happened? Because that would be interesting.
I don't know if he ever did. I don't think he ever mentioned it. It wasn't until after the attacks happened that he said something about how he was shown slides of planes hitting the World Trade Center back in 1971 with time travel technology looking into the future.
Now, of course, Mars is the topic of great interest at the minute with, is it Curiosity that's reached there and driving around with its little underbelly helicopter that they're going to be testing in the next week or two, which could be interesting. But I mean, it is hard to believe. I mean, if people have supposedly time traveled to Mars or portal there or something like that, either because they're saying there's only sort of 1% air pressure or something of the atmosphere that they've got here on Earth. So this helicopter particularly that they're going to try is got to have two sets of rotors to try and generate enough air or atmosphere under its rotors to kind of even get some sort of lift. So if that is true, if NASA is correct in saying this is the atmosphere of Mars, there's like 1 or 2% air pressure there in comparison to our atmosphere. You can't breathe it or whatever. I'm wondering what Andrew Basiago and President Obama, if he went there, what were they doing? How were they breathing? Did he mention any kind of suits or anything they had to wear?
We did actually talk about that. He actually said Mars is nothing like what mainstream science tells us. It's like the sky on Mars is actually a baby blue color, a little bit more of a lighter blue than the Earth's is. He said that the ground area on Mars, the terrain and all, it's not the reddish color that we're all led to believe. It actually more closely resembles the desert of Arizona. And he also said, yes, it is possible to breathe on Mars without a spacesuit, although it's harder, though, because there is less oxygen there than on the Earth, and going to a whole new world obviously would be a little bit of shock to the system. But you're not going to, according to him, pass out from lack of air if you go to Mars. And Alfred Weber, one of his colleagues, has shown all sorts of pictures, and Richard Hoagland as well has shown all kinds of pictures and such of evidence of civilizations on Mars that used to be there, as well as living things on Mars that are alive right now. And so there's a lot of things about Mars that that we don't know about, and this kind of hits me pretty hard, I must say. My father is a member in the Mars Society, and he's basically wasting his time with that organization because they follow what mainstream science says about Mars, and well, that's flawed. That's mainstream science has got it all wrong. Mars and the other planets, for that matter, are not what we're led to believe they are like. That's a whole new can of worms in and of itself. But Mars, of course, is probably the planet that people would most likely research first regarding trying to figure out what the nature of planets is like, if it's not what we're told it is.
Because I do remember John Lear, ironically being a guest of yours, mentioning something about Venus and sort of saying, well, Venus is extremely hot, so we're led to believe. So how come the parachute it came down on, the probes that land on Venus obviously have to come down on a parachute. Why didn't those parachutes burn up in the atmosphere? Now, I understand they're cooler up in the atmosphere, in the upper parts of the atmosphere. So when they get down to the sort of lower area, closer to the ground, that's where it gets really hot. So I'm presuming that's where the parachute would maybe have destructed, and maybe they fired retro rockets similar to what the Mars craft are doing, where they're kind of landing slowly. But these craft, allegedly, the ones that land on Venus, only last like an hour. And
Did we lose you?
I think we lost him.
Frozen on the screen.
So
Yeah, I think he might have come back again. Might have lost his internet. He had an issue with internet, didn't he, actually, Andy, before the show started, I think.
Wait, I can see you now.
Hello, Neil. You're back again, mate.
yeah, slight pause.
We lost you for a moment.
Okay, we can drop in. You can edit that bit out.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
a slight pause. Okay. So I'll wait for that answer. So I was saying the last bit I said was something about is Venus all it's crapped up to be, as it were? And I'll wait for Andrew's answer.
I've had guests on my show who have said we've been totally lied to about the nature of the planets. John Lear, he claims he's had some interviews with some NASA whistleblower who said that first of all, stars, they're not nuclear fusion. That's one of the biggest lies in all mainstream science. In reality, stars are electric in nature, maybe electromagnetic, but I think it would make sense to say they're more electric than magnetic. In terms of their nature, there's maybe some scalar energy involved with the composition of stars. And we're also been misled about the nature of outer space. It's not a vacuum, according to some alternate sources. It's actually more of a plasma membrane. Think of it as an ocean of sorts, an ocean that, well, beings can swim through. Not a true vacuum. And the stars do not radiate heat to the planets. What's actually going on, according to John Lear, is that the stars radiate electromagnetic energy to the planets, and the planets have their own consciousness filtering system in their atmospheres and also maybe outside of the atmospheres of the planets, which allows for them to convert all the energy into a form that would allow for life on the planet, regardless of the planet's size or location. So the idea that a planet has to exist in the Goldilocks zone, as mainstream science says, where everything is just right for life to exist, is bullcrap. That's mainstream science lie. In reality, there could be life everywhere because the stars are not what we're led to believe they are. The planets have their own consciousness, and there's filtering systems of sorts that allow for the life to exist on the planet by utilizing the energy that comes from the stars, which, as I said, are not powered by nuclear fusion. That's a very, very big lie, and more people seem to be waking up to that. Although it seems like there are some entities who aren't interested in explaining what some of the planet's composition is. Adronis, who is channeled by Brad Johnson, he I've heard him say that the gas giant planets they are not what you are led to believe they are. They're comprised differently, but then he wouldn't explain further because he didn't think that humanity is at a level of consciousness to know what the true nature of those gas giant planets actually is. So we don't really know what the planets actually have, but considering that mainstream science lies to us about all kinds of things, they're probably lying to us about all kinds of other things as well regarding astronomy. Astronomy is an area of science that has tons and tons and tons of lies. And well, I suppose one could remote view the planets and see what they look like. That's easier said than done to become a remote viewer. But
Ingo Swann did that actually.
yes.
Yeah, talking of remote viewers, he remote viewed. I think it was Jupiter before Voyager. The Voyager probes reached there, and he claimed 18 months before Voyager got there that Jupiter did have a basic ring system, although it wasn't visible from Earth. And he said there's like ice crystals forming around the planet. He did give other bits of information. I can't recollect too much about it, but that's what led him on to remote view the moon. And in his book Penetration, he went in to describe being given coordinates to investigate on the moon, and he actually said there was humanoids there, or human type beings, who appeared to be mining something on the moon. And the other darker side of that, they appear to be aware of him, even though he was remotely viewing it. So whether he was astrally there, out of his body, like a spiritual entity floating around, or they could just perceive some sort of consciousness there, presence, which was his, I don't know. But he was told to get out of there by the guy that was asking him to, go there. And he actually believed that the guy was asking him to test out the moon's coordinates was possibly a resident of this base on the moon, and they were actually testing out the defense system because they thought that maybe humans have got enough psychic powers now in their evolution that they could perhaps do things that they shouldn't be doing or they didn't want to be doing. And they was testing out the defense systems by saying, okay, show us what you can do, and in theory, how come therefore we can protect our interests on the moon without you pesky humans nosing around on here. So that was kind of like, I think he was just checking out the level of particularly Ingo Swann's ability. I don't think the rest of us are up to that spec yet, but who knows? But yeah, it's interesting idea. So yeah, remote viewing does seem to be a possibility. Certainly the Russians were practicing that as well. So God knows what they've got up to as well. But yeah, remote viewing the planets is certainly one way forward. And we did actually speak to a lady over a year ago, Andy and I, on the Paranormal Peep show, who claimed to have gone astrally out of her body and said she put her hands in the lunar regolith on the moon to leave handprints in there. It was some sort of test. Although I did kind of wonder that if you're an astral entity, how can you actually form impressions with your hands into soil on the moon? I didn't quite understand that myself, but that's another guess that we will have back at some point, so maybe we can ask her in detail on that. So have you had any kind of out-of-body experiences yourself, or interview people that have had out-of-body experiences on your show, Andrew?
Well, I have interviewed people who have had out-of-body experiences. As far as me having an out-of-body experience, okay, maybe a couple times when I was tripping on cough medicine, but that's a drug-induced
I'll have to try that one.
experience, which doesn't really count. It's not really a natural one. Well, maybe one could debate that, but as far as other kinds of out-of-body experiences that aren't induced by some sort of outside force, no, I haven't. Although I guess I have had some psychic experiences of sorts. I do remember a time where I was I was doing a bank run for my job, and out of nowhere in my mind was an image of the bank being robbed, and I was wondering where did that come from. And then when I got back to my job, they were asking me if I was all right and everything, and they thought I was in danger, and I was like, "What's wrong, everybody?" And they were like, "We just got a word from the bank that they had been robbed." And well, I had left the bank right after right before the robbery happened, but
Wow.
That was a sign of remote viewing of sorts, a mini remote viewing, not willfully doing the remote viewing, but I had perceived what was going to happen. Then again, a lot of people have things like this. How many times have you thought of someone, and then the next thing you know, they call you on the phone 2 seconds later? That's it just goes to show you that everything is connected at a conscious level. And while the skeptics will dismiss it as nothing more than a coincidence, we metaphysical folks know better and realize now that there is no such thing as a coincidence. You should eliminate the word coincidence from your vocabulary, because everything does actually happen for a reason. So, hope that helps make sense of it.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Andy Chaplin, you're a medium and practice psychic
I knew
stuff.
you were going to say that.
Yeah, I knew. Yeah, he knows what the question is. So go and answer it now. No. So you've obviously had your psychic experiences. Have you ever travelled out your body or remote viewed, Andy, or been in danger and you kind of got a clue? Hang on, I've got to get out. There's something dangerous, and anything like that as well?
That's interesting. So out of body, I'd say yes. There was one instance that was quite interesting, that I literally kind of, that thing in the morning where you're just about waking up and you're half kind of like asleep and half
Slumbery.
coming into consciousness.
It's called late for work.
Yeah. So I had that going on, but I was, it sounds really weird. I suppose you could call it my light body or my ethereal body was sat up in bed. Okay. But my physical body was lying down. And so I had this kind of like experience of being sat up, but kind of like, and I knew that I was out of my body, and I thought, well, this is a bit weird. So I kind of spoke to my guides. One of my guides is called Alan. He's kind of like my main guide. He was a coal miner in north of England, but that's another story. And I said, Alan, I'm a bit out of body here. Can you do something about it? Can you help me? And I felt literally kind of like 2 fingers on my shoulders, and this would have been on my ethereal body, pushing me back into my physical body. And then once it kind of connected and locked in, then I kind of like woke up again. So there's that. In terms of like danger, I'd say yes, but it's hard to kind of like prove it. So there's kind of instances where I felt there were certain parts of town or kind of like areas that I shouldn't walk through. Kind of, like I got a feeling like a bad vibe and then took a different direction. So there's a bit of that. Now scientists would put on their skeptics cap and say, oh well, you could have walked through there and nothing could have happened, but I won't know because I can't go back in time and change it. I could tell you an interesting story of a friend of mine, even though this is anecdotal, but this is very interesting. So she lives in Royston, which is a town in Hertfordshire, and she takes the same route every day to work. And one particular day, she kind of felt a voice in her head. She thought it was her mum, I think, who passed away sadly. And she said, go left, take this left, take the next left to go to work. And she thought, it's a bit weird. Don't know why I need to do that. But she followed it. She went left. She found out later on that day that a lorry had jackknifed. And it had jackknifed at the same time that she would have been travelling down there, almost, to the minute. Had she carried on going down at the speed she was going at, she may well have been involved in it. And I think there was a collision. I don't know if it was fatal or not, but she listened to that voice, that inner voice, and she was going to ignore it because when you're in a routine, you do the routine, and the logical mind kicks in. Now it'll be fine, that kind of thing. But she listened to it, and she found out that the lawyer jackknifed. But you know what? A skeptic will always put on the skeptic's hat and say, well, it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, but it's hearing the voice, though, is the interesting thing. It wasn't just her, so she heard that voice from somewhere.
Exactly.
And, yeah. Now, and of course, Paul, you've had your own near-death experience rather than typical, astral traveling. So, you're the king of the kings as far as these sorts of things, aren't you? You really went out and saw these beings and everything.
I did, yeah, but it's a long story, but I don't want to obviously, bore people with that until another time. But I want to ask Andrew a bit about future guests that he wants to interview. Any thoughts on that, Andrew?
Future guests. Well, in recent times, I have felt a very interesting urge to try to get a lot of people that deal with the economy and financial markets on my show. It seems very fitting with getting with the Chinese zodiac. We're in the year of the metal ox, and we were in the year of the metal rat. I wonder if all this metal stuff is having something to do with the fact that more people are buying gold and silver in the present day, and well, talk to people like Bull Pony and others who say that this upcoming month of April is going to have a Red Sea moment of sorts in the financial system. Can only imagine what that is. And interesting how right now the Suez Canal, which connects to the Red Sea, is having some sort of a problem with ships being clogged up in there. So perhaps there could be an omen to that. But I mean, I always try to get different guests on to talk about different things whenever I just watch YouTube videos to do research, and if I see someone that I think is interesting in the video, I will just send them a request to come on. But in recent times, yeah, there has been an urge to try to get financial and market experts on the show, more so than I have in the past, because I do believe that there is definitely going to be some sort of a major shift of sorts dealing with our financial system. I myself have been buying a lot of gold and silver. Every time I get one of my credit cards down to zero, the first thing I do is buy $500 or so worth of gold or silver with it. I think that as long as the credit card is at zero, then I can make the argument that I can reasonably afford to buy gold and silver with it. I do not encourage people, though, to max out their credit cards to buy as much gold and silver as possible. That will create bad karma if you cannot pay back that debt. So only buy as much as you can reasonably afford. So to answer your question, yeah, different subjects, all different kinds of topics for discussing the nature of reality. But in more recent times, there has been a push for economics and market people to come on to try to wake people up to what's going on in the financial system to prepare for what may be a Red Sea moment of sorts in the financial system and the stock market and
Andrew,
the economy.
explain the metal thing with the Chinese zodiac. I don't quite get that. I've never heard of it before.
Well, I was asking one of my recent guests who was dealing with Chinese metaphysics, is it a coincidence? Well, there was a thing as a coincidence, but is it a fitting act of reality that in this present day where we have we had the year of the metal rat, which was most of 2020, and then now we have the year of the metal ox. And it's interesting how it's 2 metal years in a row. The next year is going to be the year of the water tiger. I'm a tiger, but I'm a fire tiger, not a water tiger, so I can imagine there's going to be some.
All right, so the metal thing is literally kind of like because it's an element of the earth.
Yes, it's an element. Chinese metaphysics is more elemental, if you will, than Western
Right.
physics. I'm going to say right now that when it comes to comparing Chinese stuff versus Western stuff, you'd be a fool if you didn't go with the Chinese way to get the best possible product, because Western stuff has kind of abridged everything, screwed up everything, and with few exceptions, the Chinese way is the way to go. And I seem to be myself more interested in Chinese astrology than I am in Western astrology, and I've also been very feng shui-like of sorts with my with where I put things on my property and such. And I think more people will too. I mean, I hear a lot. You've been hearing all this stuff in recent years. China's going to become the next global superpower, going to overpower America. Well, I look at that not really as China, the country, being another Roman Empire like America has been going to war with other countries. Instead, I kind of think that maybe what's going to happen is people are going to realize that the Chinese, ancient traditional Chinese way of doing things, metaphysically speaking and such, is the proper, appropriate, and best possible way to do things. And it's going to triumph over the Western way, which should lead to higher consciousness for more people. So that's a good thing. The Chinese way is going to be taking over the world because it's from a metaphysical standpoint, not a empirical empire standpoint. Get my drift.
I actually heard also years ago, a friend of mine was chatting to this lady who had made a study of different civilizations, and she had said that throughout history, all civilizations collapse because their economic plan or whatever just collapses eventually. and the Roman Empire collapses, the Egyptians, they collapse. It's all their economics collapses. And she said, this lady, this was going back about 30 plus years ago, she said, I know it's going to happen with this civilization. We will have a big financial economic collapse, and that'll be the end of us. And we'll start again in some other way. I don't know. Maybe that's what they call a great big financial reset. So they're kind of hinting at it. And normally when they hint at these things, it's to break it in slowly, isn't it? Rather than to be a big shock for everybody. They're trying to get things prepared for it. That's the blueprints are there. They're just telling you what's in the box. The wrapping is over it and the ribbon's tied and the label says to civilization. This is a present from whoever. And they're giving you hints of what's inside. They're saying, here's the shape of the box. What do you think it is? And that's the kind of impression I'm getting about this great big financial reset. And maybe this COVID-19 is one of those little kind of pathways that leads to it, or the excuse that leads to it. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I found that
you got to wonder what lockdown is really about. Is it really about a pandemic with a 99% survival rate, or is it about getting people used to a police state, used to kind of like being in a prison state type thing? Because that's what it is. And don't forget, they also lift and put on lockdowns at will. It's an acclimatization process. So the first time we had lockdown, it was like, oh my god, lockdown. Now, because they've kind of lifted it and then released it, and all these tier systems, now people are kind of getting used to it. Oh yeah, it's just another lockdown kind of thing. I don't like it. It's a bit police statey.
Well,
it's a bit like
may I
dunking
chime
your head
in
in the
there?
water and holding it there, isn't it?
If I could chime in
Yeah,
there.
go on, carry on, Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, but regarding why certain places are more locked down than others, I have heard that it may very well be that the lockdown on the global scale was not caused by the malevolent system of domination and control. It was actually caused by the white hats, because they want everybody to be locked down so they can clear out all the negativity and bad things that's going on the planet. Child trafficking has been dealt a huge blow in the last few months, and whatnot. And certain countries, like Pakistan and Italy, they had some blackouts, and the word on the street is those blackouts were done in order to, like you always see, like in some gangster movie or something, when the lights go out in a room and then there's all sorts of like fighting going on, and you can't see what happened, and then when the lights go on, something is missing. Well, it could be in a similar analogy what's going on a global scale, like the lockdown is happening and the white hats are trying to take out all the bad guys that have been controlled by the criminal bankers that have been controlling humanity since the time of ancient Sumeria. And it could be, I don't know why the UK is more locked down than most of America is. I could imagine it may have something to do with the fact that right now, could the white hats maybe be trying to shut down a lot of the things going on in the UK right now, so they need to keep it locked down in order to make that happen? I don't know, but
I think the problem I have with that, because it's quite a popular theory, that the white hats are taking over. The only problem is they were basically saying that don't worry about Biden. He's not actually going to get into office. The inauguration is going to be fake. And then kind of time passed and Biden did get into office. He is there at the moment. And then they were saying, oh, don't worry, by March the 4th, the white hats will go in and they'll arrest everyone and they'll take all the bad guys out, in handcuffs. That didn't happen. So what kind of like frustrates me is we're told these things are happening, but then time passes and nothing happens and Biden is still there. What's your view on that, Andrew?
Well, if you were to ask former British politician Simon Parkes, who some would say loses credibility because he claims that he communicates with mantid ETs, but
I like Simon. I follow him quite a lot.
Yeah,
So
well,
yeah, I'm well aware of.
He said, there's a couple things he said. He said, first of all, the reason DT, Trump, is not in office for a second term, there's a whole slew of reasons why the system didn't really like him. But the number one primary, if you had to pick the number one primary reason why Donald Trump is not in office, is because he was planning to put America on the gold standard in his second term, and that's the reason why he took down portraits of Bill Clinton and one of the George Bush presidents in the White House and replaced those with portraits of Teddy Roosevelt and William McKinley. For those who don't know American history, William McKinley at the turn of the 19th going into the 20th century got America on the gold standard. In his opponent at that time wanted free silver, which kind of make the analogy that the unlimited money supply with the bankers printing money out of thin air like crazy. Back in those days, the money was either gold or silver, but the silver people, they wanted to make unlimited money, free for all for everybody, while William McKinley wanted a strict gold standard, which didn't allow for much corruption, which could explain why Leon Czolgosz was more than likely put under mind control by the bankers to murder him. Interesting how the events surrounding McKinney's assassination happened exactly 100 years before 9/11. I don't know if there's any time loop things involved with that, but yes, Donald Trump, he wanted to put America on the gold standard in his second term. That's the reason the bankers were so desperate to make sure he didn't get in there. And as far as demented Biden, as to why he's in office right now, Simon Parks claimed that they were thinking about taking Biden down during the inauguration, the phony inauguration that was not what we're led to believe it was, and probably wasn't even held in D.C. But there was some sort of a message given by the powers that be saying, if you take Biden down, we're going to pull a doomsday switch, so don't even think about it. I don't know if that's true, but that's what Simon said, and some other sources have said that once Biden's approval rating falls below 30%, then the White Hats will make their move to take him down. And will they replace him with Kamala Harris? Well, I hope not. She's a California socialist on steroids, it seems, with some of her policies, but definitely don't want her in office. But who would be the next president?
Do you think she's a full-out communist?
I don't know. I mean, California has been socialized in many ways. Is definitely probably the most socialist state in the United States right now. New York isn't far behind. Illinois got some issues as well. I mean, there's some states that are really not taking this lockdown seriously, like Florida. The governor of Florida, the word on the street is he told Joe Biden, "Go F yourself," when Biden told him, "You will address me as the president, Mr. President," and the governor told him, "Go F yourself." We need more governors like that who are willing to stand up in the face of tyrants who think that they are more authoritative than them. We're all equal. We're all supposed to be equal, and that goes true of
Out of interest, how many times has Biden forgotten where he is?
Yeah, who knows? He tripped 3 times on the ramp getting off the plane recently. Everybody's talking about that. So it's all a show. And the White House, he's not even in the White House right now. He's definitely at some remote location. You look out the windows of the White House that he's allegedly in, and you can see things. It should be a lawn, like a nice green lawn. It's always been that, but it's not. You're seeing cars in a parking lot or something, and some people have provided evidence that it's actually going on in Colorado. I mean, it's all a show. It's all a fraud. Everybody knows it's all a fraud, and exactly what's going on? Is it the powers that be who are controlling Biden, or did the White Hats decide, all right, let's just make a phony show out of this and let Biden be in office so we can do what we want to do to free humanity? I should point out, though, Alex Collier, in his recent interview that I saw with that lady who did an interview with some guy who was killed right after she interviewed him. Alex Collier said that he, in his recent webinars, said that people really need to be careful saying the White Hats are controlling everything. That may be a huge stretch, which is going to get people complacent. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe that the dark hats don't have some influence over what's going on. Collier did say in the Goldfish Report interview back in 2019 that the overlords, the Draco Reptilian overlords, are gone. And he said, I see great things for humanity with the overlords being gone. Well, that was before the pandemic hit, and that threw a monkey wrench into that. But the fact that the overlords are gone means that humanity does, of course, have the potential to speed up its awakening faster than they would otherwise if the overlords were there. And to say the White Hats are totally in control would probably make people complacent. So there's a battle going on. Who's controlling what is, we don't know. Let's just hope for the best.
I love the fact that the people who hate borders and hate guns are the ones that are surrounding themselves with metal fences and 25,000 armed National Guards.
Yes. Sorry.
I mean, he's
I mean, have right to bear arms. It's really here in America we cherish that like the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
That right.
That's what they're going for. That's what they're going for. Yeah.
Well, we are drawing a close here. It's whizzed by. So any last questions before we wrap this up? Paul, anything?
I just want to give Andrew the floor to say, what, where you can find his channel. Is it on Facebook and YouTube and those kind of places, Andrew?
Yes, my channel is on YouTube. It's Nature of Reality Radio. Include the word radio. That's part of the title. There's no check mark on that channel yet. I don't have enough subscribers to have that famous check mark that so many people aspire to have next to their name to say I'm the official one. I also have a Facebook group, Nature of Reality Radio, that has, last I checked, it had 999 subscribers. Just I wonder who that 1,000 subscribers is going to be. Maybe it could be one of you guys. Who knows? Then there's I archive all my shows on Blogger, natureofrealityradio.blogspot.com. Just a place to archive them. I learned from my days in college as getting a journalism degree, you should always archive your stories and your interviews somewhere else, so you always have a place to look back on them. And although I want to stress to everybody, I would prefer you not listen to my interviews and shows on YouTube. I upload the shows as well to Cost.tv. Cost.tv is a blockchain channel. The more people that watch your shows on that channel, the more money you can generate through blockchain. And shortly after uploading the videos to YouTube, I do upload them to Cost.tv. It takes a couple hours, but after they are uploaded, I do put in the video descriptions in YouTube. Please only listen to this YouTube video for 15 seconds for the sake of giving me a view credit, and then watch the rest of the interview on Cost.tv so I can generate money. I mean, I was hoping to generate money through advertisements on YouTube, but that apparently isn't happening. Ever since Independence Day, last July 4th, I resubscribed, and they claim it's taking longer than we thought because of the pandemic to resubscribe you to be eligible for advertisement revenue. But I think that's a nice way of saying we don't like your channel because you expose too many sensitive things, so we're not going to let you monetize. So help me monetize by listening to my shows on Cost.tv instead of YouTube, please.
Cool. Okay, that's a great message there. So anyone who's listening, want to check out Andrew's work, please do listen to his instructions and follow that to the T to help him support his channel. And thank you very much, Andrew, for coming on to the Paranormal Peep Show and Unite Planet joint program special. It's been great having you. Great finding out the kind of people you've interviewed, some big names out there that certainly I've heard of. And so it's great that you managed to actually pin them down and get them to speak a bit more. So I will actually track down some of those videos and watch them for myself because I'm interested to find out what they have to say. Okay, Paul, should we just wrap this up then?
Yeah, yes, please, Neil. Off you go, mate. You can wrap it up. That's fine with me.
Give me the tape. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much to Andrew Fisher, our guest. You can track him down on Facebook and on the channels, YouTube and the other channels that you spoke about. Thank you also to Andrew Chaplin joining us from Hertfordshire in the UK, the co-host for myself with the Paranormal Peep Show. And of course, we've got Paul Northridge from Unite Planet. And we'll just say a quick hello to Johnny, who can't be with us this evening, but, we'll catch up with him soon. and I'm sure he'll find this interview interesting anyway.
Mhm.
So thank you very much, one and all, and take care. Thanks for listening.
See you later.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Namaste.